September is a lovely time of year when the season changes and the earth begins to cool. It's also my birth month, and this year I turned 28, so I thought that I'd share my reflections on time and how it affects us, aging whether we like it or not, and my opinion on celebrating each rotation around the sun. I really liked who I was at 27, and I know that I'll love this version of myself too. Time is inevitable. It's going to be with us as we celebrate our highs, pull us through our lows, and sneak up on us when we least expect it, just as it's always done. From what I remember of my childhood, my perception of time was that it lasts forever, but as I age, I'm surprised to find that it's the opposite. Time is, in fact, very fast, and we shouldn't waste any of it. Wasting time is a highly subjective term, and that's what I love about it. One person might believe that wasting time might mean not to spend any of it lying down, but someone else might find that wasting time is not to bother chasing fame and financial gains. Time is what we make of it. We spend it in our best interests, whether that's couch-bound or climbing mountains. I believe that however old we are, it's important to celebrate and acknowledge ourselves every time we turn a year older. Not necessarily having a party and eating cake, but at a minimum, celebrating that we made it one more rotation around the sun while hurtling through space on this blue planet. Not every year will be a good one or remarkable, but each year contributes to who we are and how we grow, and it's important to at least make a note of that. For me, my last year has been pretty rough, but full of love, friends, and warm evenings enjoying my tiny backyard in my hammock. Last September, I was working like mad and traveling across Canada. I grew my social circle, but I grew a lot mentally as well. I had a pretty difficult time coming off of my antidepressants and actually had a lot of trouble recalling what I did in late 2019. But I bounced back just in time for COVID to shut the world down. The spring and summer of my 27th year were spent fighting off depression like most of us, putting 400 hours into Animal Crossing, developing a green thumb, and wrapped up with growing oyster mushrooms in Home Depot buckets. So many things happened this year in my life. It's hard not to miss the more exciting times, but I have to credit the painful moments too. If I hadn't burned myself out while traveling for work, I wouldn't have known how to take a step back and prioritize myself before my job. And being separated from my local friends made me realize that I have friends all over the world, and I can hang out digitally with them anytime. I also like to spend some time reflecting on my past year and finding out if I can improve anything for my future self. I've believed for a while now that life is like a game. Our only objectives are to try to make the best choices for yourself. If you want to wear funky clothes, do it. If you want to paint butterflies and flowers, do it. No one has the right to tell you how to play your game, especially society. I used to struggle a lot with this, but who says that you have to follow some kind of checklist to prove that you're a functioning member? So I wear the funky clothes. I paint the butterflies and flowers, and I'm happy. I do, of course, try my best to make sure that my choices don't harm the society that I'm a part of, as well as taking responsibility for a choice that did cause harm, or a choice that someone made long ago that players like me have inherited. Thinking of life as a game doesn't give you permission to be a horrible person or justify bad deeds. There are consequences, and you have to be okay with getting punched in the face if you make bad choices. I'm human, so I find it hard sometimes to apologize and mend my errors, but it always makes it easier for me in the long run, even if it's a learning experience. I used to believe the lie that there's a tiny window in your 20s where you're expected to do all the things to set yourself up in life. I know now that we constantly change and outgrow interests, and that there isn't any specific order to do things. If I had listened to my mentors in high school, I'd be stuck in a job that I wasn't very interested in. I took a few years off after high school to ruminate on if I wanted to pursue a secondary education, and I'm glad that I took that time. I ended up choosing a program that I wasn't even aware of in high school, and it was an incredibly enjoyable time for me. The beauty of it is that I didn't even end up in that career, but it gave me the tools and experience for what I'm doing now. Time will pass whether you act on your interests or not. The best time to act is yesterday, but the second best time is today. So what are you waiting for? Either way, you're still going to age. Not even the best skin cream is stopping that. I'm interested in who I'll be in 30 or 40 years, if I still exist then. I choose to look at my past years as an archive of versions of myself. Every year I've changed slightly, and the losses, mistakes, and traumas that I've experienced so far have made me who I am, even if, at the time, they nearly tore me apart. It's hard to predict how things will be if we can't get a handle on COVID, but either way, I know that my 28th year will be a good one, even if I'm still stuck inside my house. Either way, I plan to spend the next year wearing funky clothes, painting butterflies, and growing oyster mushrooms in my basement. Making videos is pretty fun, but it's also surprisingly hard. If you enjoyed watching me paint, consider contributing to my video funds by joining my postcard club or buying something from my shop. I don't just do videos. I have monthly polls, art requests, and behind-the-scenes posts. You can check everything out at patreon.com/peerfay, or enjoy my free content on Instagram or Twitter. Either way, thanks for joining me while I paint.